I heard my girlfriend say, I hope my ex is there, he always makes me lose control. Then I. 3 seconds, that's how long it took for my entire world to fracture. I was standing just outside the bedroom door holding her favorite takeout, ready to surprise her for our anniversary, but I was the one who got the surprise. I heard her on the phone with her friend, and the words she whispered weren't just a red flag, they were a nuclear warhead aimed directly at my heart. I just hope my ex is there tonight, she giggled. He always makes me lose control. And in that single, soul-crushing moment, I knew this party we were going to wasn't a celebration. It was a final exam, and what I did next changed everything. Dear Narrative Hub customer, before you get lost in this epic adventure, I have one big favor to ask. Statistics have shown us that most of our customers have not yet subscribed to this channel. Subscribe now and help us hit 1,000 subscribers to unlock even more epic tales. Thank you. The smell of spicy noodles and fried dumplings suddenly seemed nauseating. The flimsy plastic bag felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. 2 years, 24 months of I love yous, of shared dreams whispered in the dark, of building a life I thought was solid bedrock. All of it turned to sand, slipping through my fingers in the space of a single gleeful giggle. My first instinct was primal, a hot, white-hot flash of rage that made my knuckles ache to punch a wall. I imagined bursting in, throwing the food against her pristine white dresser, demanding answers. I wanted to scream, to see the shock and shame on her face. But then something else took over, something cold, something curious. The bonfire of my anger didn't go out, it was as if all the heat was sucked out of it, leaving behind a block of ice in my chest. This wasn't just about him, was it? It was the phrase, the specific, brutal phrase she used. Lose control. What did that even mean? What kind of control did this ghost from her past have that I, the man who held her every night, didn't? The man sitting next to her wasn't her boyfriend anymore. I was a scientist, and she had just become my experiment. The party wasn't a final exam, it was my laboratory. I took a deep, silent breath, rearranged my face into a mask of placid affection, and pushed the door open. Special delivery, I announced, forcing a smile that felt like cracking porcelain. Olivia Taylor looked up, her phone quickly dropped to her side. She was stunning, dressed in a dark blue dress that clung to her in all the ways that used to make my heart skip a beat. Now it just looked like armor. Adam, you read my mind, I'm starving. Her smile was perfect, practiced, a complete and utter lie. Happy anniversary, I said, setting the food down on the bed. I leaned in and kissed her, a quick, sterile press of lips. It felt like kissing a stranger. You ready for this party? Sounds like it's going to be a big one. I cannot wait, she said, her eyes alight with an energy I hadn't seen in months. An energy I now knew wasn't for me. Jessica was just telling me everyone is going to be there. Everyone, right? We both knew who that meant. For the entire 30-minute drive to a sprawling house in the suburbs, she chattered excitedly, her hand resting on my thigh. It was a dead weight. I drove with methodical precision, my knuckles white on the steering wheel. She thought this was just another Saturday night. She had no idea she was the bait in my trap, and I was about to see exactly what losing control really looked like. The music hit us like a physical blow the moment we stepped out of the car. A deep, thumping bass that vibrated through the soles of my shoes and up my spine. The air was thick with cheap perfume, sweat, and something vaguely electric. Inside the house was a sea of bodies, a chaotic dance of flashing lights and forced laughter. I was on high alert, my senses dialed to 11. I was scanning every face in the crowd, but I wasn't looking for a friend, I was hunting. I'm going to get us some drinks, I said, leaning close to her ear. Find us a spot. She nodded, already craning her neck, her eyes sweeping the room with a manic intensity. I watched her for a moment before heading to the makeshift bar in the kitchen. She wasn't looking for a spot to sit, she was looking for him. I grabbed 2 plastic cups of some generic punch and navigated my way back, my eyes doing their own reconnaissance. I cataloged faces, heights, hair colors. Every tall, dark-haired guy was a potential suspect. It was a strange, out-of-body experience. Part of me was still the heartbroken boyfriend reeling from the betrayal, but another, colder part of me was a strategist mapping out the battlefield. She thought I didn't see the subtle flicker of disappointment that crossed her face each time a new group of people walked in and he wasn't among them. What she didn't know was that I was seeing everything. We found a corner near the back patio, making small talk with people I barely knew. I was the perfect boyfriend. Attentive, charming, my arm draped possessively around her waist. It was all a performance, a carefully constructed illusion to keep her from suspecting that her world was about to be systematically dismantled. And then I saw him. He walked in from the patio, laughing with a small group of people. He was exactly what I had pictured, taller than me by a few inches, with an easy, confident swagger and a smile that looked like it had been custom-made to disarm people. Kyle Stewart. Even his name sounded annoyingly perfect. I didn't have to look at Olivia, I felt it. The subtle tensing of her body, the sharp, almost imperceptible intake of breath. The test had begun. I let a few minutes pass, watching them from the corner of my eye. He hadn't seen her yet. I leaned in, my lips brushing her ear. "There's that guy you used to date, isn't it, Kyle?" I kept my tone breezy, casual. She jumped slightly. "Oh, I didn't even see him," she lied, her voice a little too high. "We should go say hi," I said, my smile unwavering. The look of panic in her eyes was fleeting, but I saw it. It was exhilarating. "Come on, it'll be fine." Before she could protest, I was steering her through the crowd, a shepherd leading his lamb to the wolf. This was the first part of the experiment, direct exposure. I needed to see them together to analyze the data up close. "Kyle, long time no see," I said, extending a hand. His practiced smile faltered for a microsecond as he saw me, then locked onto Olivia. And there it was, a spark, a flash of shared history that I could never penetrate. It was a silent conversation that happened in the space of a heartbeat, and I was on the outside looking in. "Adam, good to see you, man," he said, his handshake firm. "Olivia, you look incredible." "You too, Kyle," she breathed, and the way she said his name was a punch to my gut. The conversation that followed was a masterclass in psychological warfare. It was a polite, venomous dance. He'd bring up an inside joke from their past, a trip they took, a memory designed to exclude me. I'd counter by mentioning our anniversary, our plans for the future, pulling her physically closer to me, marking my territory. Olivia was in the middle, positively glowing. She was eating it up. The tension, the unspoken rivalry. This was her arena. This was her drug. I thought the game was between me and him. I was wrong. The real game was far more twisted. He was good, I had to give him that. He was a shark sensing blood in the water. He suggested a game of beer pong, his eyes gleaming with a competitive fire. "Let's make it interesting," he said, looking directly at me. "Winner's pride." "I'm in," I said without a second's hesitation. Olivia's eyes widened. "Oh, I don't know." "It's fine," I said, my voice leaving no room for argument. "It'll be fun." The crowd gathered around the table. It was no longer just a party game, it was a spectacle. Team Adam versus Team Kyle. Olivia stood on the sidelines, wringing her hands, her face a mixture of anxiety and undisguised, thrilling excitement. This was it. This was what she wanted. Two men locked in combat with her as the unspoken prize. The game was brutal. We were neck and neck. Every cup I sank, he followed. He was a showman, adding a little flourish to every throw, playing to the crowd. I was silent, focused, my movements economical and precise. The alcohol did nothing to dull my senses, it only sharpened my resolve. With every plastic ball that arced through the air, the stakes felt higher. We were down to the last cup on each side. It was his shot. The room was buzzing. He took his time bouncing the ball, making eye contact with me over the table. "You know," he said, his voice loud enough for everyone to hear, "it takes a certain kind of man to keep a woman like Olivia happy. You gotta know how to challenge her." He smirked, then sank the shot perfectly. The crowd erupted. He pumped his fist in the air. He looked at Olivia and she was beaming, her eyes shining with pride. Not for me, for him, for the drama. And in that moment, the final piece of the puzzle clicked into place. My blood ran cold. It wasn't about love or lingering feelings. Losing control wasn't about sexual passion or a deep emotional connection. It was this gladiatorial nonsense. She loved the chaos. She loved being the center of a conflict, the validation that came from knowing two men were willing to metaphorically bleed for her attention. My anger, my jealousy, that was her thrill ride. She didn't want a partner, she wanted a protagonist for her own personal drama. It was my turn to shoot. The last cup. The entire party was watching me. I could feel Olivia's gaze burning into the side of my face. She was waiting for my reaction, waiting for me to get angry, to rise to the bait, to fight back for her honor. She was waiting for the explosion. I held the ping-pong ball in my hand. I looked at the cup. Then I looked at Kyle, who was puffing his chest out like a victorious gorilla. Then I looked at Olivia, her face flushed, her breathing shallow, caught up in the climax of the little movie she had directed. And I did something no one expected. I put the ball down on the table. I gave a small, calm, almost pitying smile. The noise of the party seemed to fade into a dull hum. "You know what?" I said, my voice clear and steady. "You win." I turned to Olivia, whose excited expression was melting into utter confusion. "He's all yours." The silence that followed was more deafening than any cheer. Kyle's triumphant smirk vanished, replaced by a look of foolish bewilderment. Olivia's face went pale. I had just flipped the script. I had robbed her of her climax. By refusing to fight, I had taken away the prize. A trophy is worthless if the loser walks away from the competition willingly. I had ended the game. Without another word, I turned and walked through the stunned crowd. It was like parting the Red Sea. I could feel every eye on my back, but I didn't care. I walked out the front door into the cool night air, and every step felt lighter than the last. The weight of the last 2 years, the weight of the betrayal, it was all lifting. I had just gotten into my car when the front door flew open. It was Olivia, running, her beautiful dress looking ridiculous in her panic. "Adam, what are you doing? What was that?" she demanded, grabbing my car door before I could close it. I looked at her, truly looked at her for the first time without the filter of love or affection. I saw a stranger, a beautifully wrapped, empty box. "I finally understand," I said calmly. "The game, it took me a while, but I get it now." "What game? You're not making any sense. You embarrassed me in there." I almost laughed. "No, you've got it backward. You were never embarrassed. You were thrilled. This is what you love, isn't it? The drama, the fight, that's your loss of control, isn't it? Not him, the chaos." Her mouth opened and closed, but no words came out. The truth had hit its mark. "You don't love him?" I continued, my voice devoid of any anger, just a chilling finality. "And you don't love me. You love the idea of people loving you enough to fight over you. But I'm done playing. I forfeit." Tears started to well in her eyes, but they looked like tears of frustration, not sadness. The tears of a director whose lead actor just walked off the set. "So what?" she stammered. "You're just leaving." "I'm choosing peace," I said. "Happy anniversary." I closed the door, started the engine, and pulled away from the curb, leaving her standing there in the middle of the street, bathed in the garish lights of the party. In my rearview mirror, I saw Kyle come out and put a hesitant arm around her. The prize he'd won. Suddenly, it didn't look like much of a prize at all. For the first time in hours, I could finally breathe. The experiment was over. The results were conclusive, and for the first time, I felt completely and totally in control.